Hello, this is the Greek of the week, and I thought I'd do Hebrews 8:5. I'm a little behind in my Through the Bible videos, but whenever I do the next Through the Bible podcast, it'll be on Hebrews 8. So I thought I'd go ahead and do verse 5 for the Greek of the week. Let's go ahead and start. Hoitenes hupodegmati kai skia latruusin ton epuranion. All right. So hoiteness, who. Now, hoi by itself means who. These two words there. Hoiteness is kind of like a longer version of it. It can mean whoever. Actually, this particular word in the New Testament reminds me a little bit of. I went to college at Southern Wesleyan University in South Carolina, and I had a roommate who was from North Carolina, and he was from kind of the thick of accent land in North Carolina. And he would say, where I would say when you go to the store, could you get me some orange juice? He would say, whenever you go to, well, no, that actually works there. Let's use a different example. Remember the time whenever we went down to the Table Rock? That's not considered optimal English. Of course, we tell English what to do. So in his particular part of North Carolina, that's perfectly good English. But I've noticed that the New Testament sometimes uses whoever. Hostis is the dictionary form of it. Hoiteness is the masculine plural nominative, where we would say who, and who would probably be considered more normal Greek. Anyway, there's a little tangent on idioms, but who is basically the best way to translate it, I would say. Hupodegmati, by example. Now, this looks a lot like a word that Plato used, paradigma. And so and Plato used the word skia for shadow. And so there are plenty of people who have suggested that this is Platonic. And in fact, a lot of translations translate it by copy and shadow, really giving a Platonic feel here. If you know Plato, I'll talk about this whenever I do the podcast. Plato believed that the material world, was a shadow and a copy of an ideal world that we could access with our heads. And so by translating this, who by copy and shadow serve the heavenlies, you could see where people could say, this is Platonic. Now, I do think there might be a superficial kind of echo of Platonism here, but it's not substantial, in my opinion. This is not any kind of normal Platonic thought here. And in fact, I think it's wrong to translate hupodigma here, or hupodegmati, as by copy. Hupodigma is not a copy. Paradigma is not a copy. Paradigma is a exemplar, a pattern, the original, as it were. And hupodigma is also an exemplar rather than a copy. And so, in fact, this word hupodigma is used in 4:17, is it, earlier in Hebrews, where it means by example. So I really don't think copy is the right. I don't know why people translated copy. Why? It's not the normal semantic range of this word. Please stop doing it. And what's interesting is people translate this as copy who don't think Hebrews is Platonic. I don't understand it. Ironically, I'm known for thinking Hebrews is somewhat Platonic, and I don't think this is Platonic paradigma kind of language here. So I don't know. Scholars, what are you going to do with them? Can't throw a rock and not hit one of them. Anyway, so who by example and shadow, by a shadowy example, it's actually foreshadowing that the earthly tabernacle was a foreshadowing of what would happen in the heavenly tabernacle. Now, it is a kind of picture, as it were. It's a picture of what they do in heaven. I don't think that this is just future looking in its shadowiness. It's also vertical, looking at heaven itself. Well, that podcast is coming. This is supposed to be about grammar. So beep, 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 going back to grammar. Who by example and shadow. These are both dative. This is obviously dative because it's got an iota subscript hanging on. Hey, don't leave me. But the iota is big here in this third declension word, and it's a ma noun, which unlike my ma, the ma nouns are neuter in Greek. And I translate it by way of example. And shadow. They serve, present active dative third plural from latruo, nice. They serve what? They serve the heavenlies. I assume that latruo wants a genitive object because normally you would have an accusative direct object, but not here. Now, I've argued in my work that these plurals referring to heaven in this section of Hebrews refer to the Holy of Holies. I've argued, and I don't know, nobody listens to me. I've argued that Hebrews doesn't really talk about an outer room to the heavenly tabernacle, the heavenly tent, and that more or less I've concluded that the heavens itself are a kind of metaphor for a heavenly sanctuary. I'm not sure that the author of Hebrews actually pictures there being a structure in heaven. That's not the popular position right now. I think the most popular position is for people to think there's actually that Hebrews actually thinks there's a temple in heaven, whereas I think of heaven itself as being the temple, as it were, or at least the Holy of Holies. Thanks for the podcast. Sorry, because I haven't done the podcast, I'm getting off track here. They serve the heavenly things. You could translate it that way if you want, or I put holies here, the heavenly holies, but heavenly things would be an okay translation. So what it's basically saying is that earthly priests, they're only illustrating the reality of heaven. That the earthly priests, and Hebrews will argue this in chapter 10, there's not a single earthly sacrifice that actually took away sin. That's pretty radical when you think about it. Okay, I'm going to stick to the grammar. Stick to the grammar, Ken. Kathos kekrema tistai moses melon epitelein tain skenein. All right, just as Moses has been revealed about to complete the tent. Interesting way of wording this. Just as, that's a comparative clause. Moses has been revealed. I assume that we often say it has been revealed to Moses. I think, though, that this is nominative. Let me just double check that, make sure I should know these things after all these years, but I've forgotten. I'm thinking this is nominative. And this is obviously perfect. The keys reduplicate with a kappa. The epsilon, this is reduplication on the front. It's perfect. The end has been shoved, the ending tie has been shoved right on the stem. That happens in the perfect Miller passive. This is a perfect passive indicative third person singular from krematidzo, to reveal. Just as Moses has been revealed about to complete the tent. Hold that thought for just a moment. Yes, I was correct. So this is nominative. So just as Moses has been revealed about to complete the tent. Well, this may seem strange to you, but I've argued, especially in my interpretation of chapter 7, that Hebrews is thinking about the text, the biblical text, not necessarily talking about historical figures. It blurs together a little bit. It's fascinating hermeneutics. I wrote an article on this once to some extent. So Moses can be a metonymy, as it were, for the law, for Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, or in this case, Exodus chapter 40. Just as Moses has been revealed about to complete the tent, or just as it was revealed to Moses is better English, but that's not what it says. It's just as Moses has been revealed and stands revealed. See, the scripture stands written. This is not talking about Moses in history primarily. It's talking about that which was put into form in the Pentateuch through Moses, just as it is revealed in relation to Moses about to complete the tent. That's just not. It's not the right translation. I'm having trouble finding words in English to express the nuance, the hermeneutical nuance here. We're talking about what we can learn from the text. I've argued that Hebrews has a little bit, here is a similarity to Philo. Hebrews doesn't go nearly as far as Philo with allegory, but there is allegory in Hebrews, I've argued. And so there's a dancing with the text that I think makes some interpreters uncomfortable. He's dancing with the text a little like Philo dances with the text, a little bit of just a little bit of allegory. Anyway, but just as Moses has been revealed, about to complete the tent, epiteleo. This is I think it's a present active infinitive. I'm saying I think in terms of the present tense, it is an active infinitive. I think it's epiteleo, so it's present. All the letters of the present are there. The epsilon of eo is just crashed into the ending. So we have a little police line saying, "Step back, there's been an accident here." Anyway, just as Moses has been revealed, about to complete the tent, that is the tent of meeting, the tabernacle in Exodus. And what was revealed? Here's a quote. For a procrastinator, he says, Faison, for he says, quote, "Look, quote, you will make all things according to the type that has been shown to you in the mountain." That's a quote from Exodus. Well, actually, it's a spliced quote. There are two different places that are spliced together. I think they're both from Exodus 40, one from earlier in the chapter, one from later in the chapter. By the way, there's only one other place in all surviving Greek literature where that particular splicing has been done. Any guesses as to where? That's right, Philo. Anyway, so drip, 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 drip. So for look, he says, "Oragar Faison, poieses panta kata ton tupon ton deikthenta soi ento ore." All right, so look, he says, you will make all things according to. This is ora is present active imperative, horao, hora. You will make, this is sigma, when you add a sigma to the end of the stem, it often indicates, in the indicative, it indicates a future. A, second person singular. So this is future active indicative second singular from poieto. You will make, you will do, you will pick up your clothes. It's a future of command or paratival future use. Look, you will make all things, neuter plural alpha, bingo, all things according to the type. Now, if Hebrews wanted to be Platonic, this would be a great place to put paradigma here. It didn't. You could argue that that's an intentional move on the author of Hebrews' part so that you don't go down that Platonic road for whatever reason. The type that has been shown you on the mountain. So Moses must have seen a vision of what he was supposed to construct. And that vision gave him a copy, not a copy, a example, a shadowy example, illustration, shadowy illustration of what he was to, what is in heaven. Okay, here we have deikthenta. My aunt is an active participle. There's an nt in the middle there. This is not an active participle, because theta epsilon says, I'm aorist passive. So this is an aorist passive participle. The alpha, the article never lies. This is accusative masculine singular because it goes with tupon, which is accusative masculine singular. Tone tupon, tone deikthenta. This is called an attributive construction. Article noun, article adjective. This is a participle, but a participle is a verbal adjective. The type having been shown is the rated G translation, the ing translation, having, because it's aorist, been, because it's passive, shown, because it's deiknumi, that's the word, aorist passive participle, accusative masculine singular from deiknumi, that's the parsing of it. The type having been shown, it has the article, so let's use Ken's rule, use who or that. The type that having been shown, that's not good English. Stage 3, bring it on down. The type that has been shown to you, soi, dative, singular, on the mountain, Mount Sinai. And so Moses went up into the mountain, God gave him the blueprints, Moses goes back down and he makes, he follows the blueprints. All right, now how detailed are those blueprints? Is it a Platonic archetype? No, I don't think so. Is it an actual temple? That's not the way I go. I go with a shadowy illustration. Anyway, all right. This has been the Greek of the week. I'm sorry I did so much exegesis. Maybe you don't mind, but the Greek was part of it. So have a great week with Greek.